Addison and William had been married for over 2 decades, both in their late 40s. Their children had already traveled independently to start their own families. William's profession was cyclical. He spent 2 months at home, and then the same amount of time traveling. At first, it was not easy for the couple to adjust to this schedule. Over time, however, the concept of maintaining a long-distance relationship became familiar, and both secretly looked forward to the work cycles. Don't you ever experience jealousy attacks? I couldn't stand it, imagining what he might be doing there. Addison's friend, Evelyn, persistently questioned. "Oh, jealousy is a young woman's game," Addison muttered, hiding her fading passion for her husband. Years of marriage passed. Their children came of age. Before their impending departure, William mentioned in passing that he was being offered an extra month of work, which Addison agreed to without hesitation. "You won't mind?" he inquired of his wife. "Go ahead," Addison confirmed, certain that the extra 30 days was unlikely to change their lives. She said goodbye to her husband. 6 weeks into his absence, she found herself sitting in a cafe with her daughter, chatting animatedly and sharing intimate anecdotes. Her daughter giggled as she recounted the adventures of her widowed grandmother, who, to everyone's surprise, had ventured into online dating and was now on her 3rd date with a gentleman she met on the platform. Addison couldn't help but smile, vicariously enjoying her mother-in-law's newfound joy. Thoughts of online dating never left Addison, causing a week-long internal struggle between her conscience and the temptation of novelty. Just when she was on the verge of at least looking at the dating site, William approached her. His words were imbued with genuine tenderness, and his concern for her well-being was palpable in every syllable. As their conversation came to an end, he uttered 3 words they hadn't exchanged in years. "I love you." Addison's moral compass shook, and she took that exchange as a turning point. The hour of her husband's return had arrived. Despite the lingering guilt of her reflection, Addison greeted him with unabashed joy. Throughout dinner, William told her about his professional endeavors, and Addison dutifully narrated what was going on in their home circle. "You didn't have a job?" her husband inquired. "You've had a couple clients, haven't you?" "The ones with 2 kids," Addison reminded him. Having long since given up her full-time job, she occasionally lent a hand to young parents in need by moonlighting as a nanny. Addison had once worked with an agency, but when clients began seeking her services by word of mouth, she'd withdrawn. As she grew older, her enthusiasm for the work waned, especially amid the demands of caring for infants, compounded by the lack of older children to help. Moreover, news of the impending fatherhood of their son Benjamin foreshadowed the imminent arrival of a grandchild, causing Addison to contemplate retirement. To William's joking amusement, "It seems like 2 months together fly by in the blink of an eye, and you're off again," he joked. By the end of the first month, Addison found herself feeling homesick. The days were long, and she had little to occupy her time. That's when the idea of a dating site popped into her head. After downloading the app and creating her profile, Addison pondered whether to reveal her true identity or to be safe. In the end, she chose a photo that hid her face, so began an evening spent browsing profiles and chatting with potential suitors. The message stirred something in her, though it was nothing more than a fleeting sensation. With a mixture of emotions, she went to bed. In the morning, as she checked her phone, a message from a young man caught her attention. Logan, 26, looking to connect with older women, his profile read. Addison sensed the intrigue, but chose not to engage in conversation. 2 more messages from Logan arrived in her inbox during the day. After lunch, a call from a friend interrupted her reverie by suggesting an evening rendezvous. After working out the details, they said their goodbyes. As Addison prepared for the evening rendezvous, thoughts of the young man from the dating site flashed through her mind. The 3rd message arrived late that night, when Addison was already in bed after returning home. Perhaps it was the lingering effects of the wine drunk with her friend that prompted her to reply. Opening the chat room, she thought briefly before expressing her willingness to communicate, albeit exclusively online without any physical encounters. "Okay," came the quick reply. Thus began a dialogue in which they got to know each other, exchanging questions and anecdotes. It had been a week since Addison and Logan began corresponding, easing her feelings of loneliness. She found comfort in the attention the young man gave her. One day, he asked for a picture that showed her face, under the pretense that he wanted to match the face to a name. Initially fearful of the possible repercussions and the prospect of William finding out about her online interactions, Addison eventually agreed and sent the requested image. Logan's praise caused Addison to blush, despite William's constant generosity with compliments. Receiving compliments on her appearance from a new man gave Addison an unexpected thrill. Another month passed, and she had to inform her virtual admirer of her impending absence, explaining it was due to professional obligations and lack of internet access. Then, the day before William's anticipated return, Addison took the crucial step of deleting the app. 2 months of her husband's absence from home had been an ordeal for both of them. Addison found herself constantly preoccupied with thoughts of her digital thimble. "It's only a month this time, so you'll be back before you know it," her husband remarked before leaving, unaware that his words brought more joy than sadness to Addison's heart. Once his car was out of sight, she didn't waste any time reinstalling the app she'd been chatting with Logan on. Nervously, she reached out, hoping he was still receptive to her return. Days passed with no response, and Addison grew increasingly anxious. Logan's offline status compounded her fears. Yet one evening, a long-awaited message appeared on the screen. "I've been waiting for you to return," it read. Renewed communication with the young man had once again caught Addison's attention, and despite her initial doubts, Logan broached the subject of meeting in person. "I understand your reluctance for physical contact, but perhaps we could meet for coffee during daylight hours," he suggested. Addison was once again caught in a moral dilemma. She informed Logan that she needed to reflect, then abruptly ended the conversation. The following evening, she came to a decision. "I agree. Let's meet there," she agreed, and gave the young man the address. The day of their meeting, Addison had been on the verge of a nervous breakdown, and she'd resorted to sedative pills to calm her frayed nerves before going out. Upon arrival, Logan was waiting for her, a recognizable figure among the bustling cafe. Initial awkwardness clouded Addison's demeanor as she tried to come to terms with the fact that she was to share a date at the cafe with a young man in love with her. She was struck by the disparity in their ages. He was the same age as her son Benjamin. Despite her doubts, they talked for several hours. As the evening wore on, Logan offered him a ride home, an offer that started their subsequent relationship. Their first moment of intimacy occurred in the passenger compartment of his car, which triggered a series of rendezvous that followed a similar pattern. Logan became a constant presence in Addison's life, taking her to his residence or to an inconspicuous hotel for clandestine rendezvous. Despite a deep sense of shame in her husband's presence, Addison found herself unable to rid herself of the secret liaison. Payback for their indiscretion came one fateful morning. After a night spent in Logan's company, Addison invited him to spend the night at her house. As dawn broke, they found themselves dozing in Addison and William's marital bed. As fate would have it, William returned home unexpectedly, hoping to surprise his wife. But what awaited him was a sight beyond his expectations. With a sinking heart, Addison realized the gravity of the situation when her husband's quiet voice called to her from the hallway. When the bedroom door creaked open, revealing the compromising scene before him, William realized the truth instantly, long before Addison's desperate cry pierced the silence. Wasting no time, William quickly took Addison's naked lover to the landing with his belongings, a drastic action that took him only 5 minutes to accomplish. When he returned to Addison, his face reflected anger, and he curtly stated his unwillingness to accept any explanation. If this extramarital affair proved more important to her than their family, he offered to divorce her. Fortunately, their children had already reached adulthood, sparing them from being caught in the crossfire or having to go through the painful process of separation between their parents. Nevertheless, the gravity of their mother's act kept them uncomfortable and forced them to temporarily cut off communication with Addison. After recognizing the seriousness of her transgression, Addison found that she had no excuse for her behavior. Although she had truly fallen out of love with her husband, she realized the egregious nature of her betrayal. At that pivotal moment, emotions clouded her judgment and led her down a path marred by recklessness. Often people are captured by the inertia of circumstances, gradually weaning themselves from the tender feelings that once cherished with fervor. For some, the institution of marriage becomes a bargain, where the lack of affection serves as an excuse for neglecting the feelings of the partner. They do not realize the complexity of the family bond, where fidelity and honesty serve as fundamental pillars. Neglecting these essential ingredients can be disastrous and unravel a complex tapestry painstakingly woven over the years.